The warning. Captain Alina Reyes stood at the helm of the EDS Horizon, watching the holographic display as another automated beacon materialized from the depths of space. It was the seventh they'd encountered this month, each one identical to the last. Ancient machines broadcasting the same cryptic message in thousands of languages across every known frequency. Warning. Containment zone. Earth and associated systems. Species designation. Human. Threat classification. Omega. Avoid contact. Avoid proximity. Maintain quarantine protocols. Elena ran her fingers through her close-cropped gray hair, a habit that had followed her through 20 years of space exploration. The beacons had appeared shortly after humanity achieved reliable faster-than-light travel, but no one had managed to determine their origin. They seemed to predate human spaceflight by at least 10,000 years. Another one for the collection, Dr. Chen. Elena called out to her chief scientist, who was already processing the beacon's data stream. Dr. Maya Chen didn't look up from her workstation, her augmented eyes rapidly processing the incoming information. This one's different, Captain. It's accepting queries. Elena felt the familiar surge of adrenaline that came with any new discovery. In 6 months of studying these mysterious warnings, none had ever responded to attempts at communication. Put it on main display. Let's see what our ancient friends have to say. The holographic display shifted, ancient symbols transforming into modern standard English. A mechanical voice, somehow both ancient and crystal clear, filled the bridge. Query protocol activated. State your species designation. Elena exchanged glances with her bridge crew before responding. This is Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth Defense Ship Horizon. We are human. There was a pause, and for a moment Elena thought they'd lost the connection. Then the beacon's response came, its tone somehow more urgent than before. Human presence detected. Initiating historical record playback. Warning. The following information has been preserved for 47,293 local solar cycles. The holographic display exploded into a three-dimensional representation of the Milky Way. Thousands of points of light represented civilizations, their rise and fall playing out across millennia in accelerated time. But there was one point that remained conspicuously dark: Earth. In the time before, the galaxy was ordered. The beacon continued. Technology developed along predictable paths. Species advanced according to established patterns. Then we discovered Earth. The display zoomed in on their solar system, showing early human civilization. Elena watched as humanity progressed from primitive tools to modern technology at a pace that seemed impossibly fast compared to the other civilizations shown. Your species defies prediction, the beacon stated. Where others follow paths, you create new ones. Where others perfect existing technologies, you discard them for untested alternatives. Where others seek stability, you embrace chaos. Dr. Chen had moved closer to the display, her augmented eyes capturing every detail. Captain, according to this data, most species take approximately 100,000 years to progress from basic tools to spaceflight. We did it in less than 10,000. Your rate of innovation is unprecedented, the beacon confirmed. Your willingness to experiment with untested technologies threatens the stability of all. Examples follow. The display shifted again, showing various human innovations throughout history. But it wasn't showing their successes, it was showing their failures. Failed experiments, devastating accidents, technologies that had backfired spectacularly. Where others would abandon paths that led to failure, you persist. You learn from destruction. You build on disaster. This approach is incompatible with galactic stability. Elena felt a chill run down her spine as she began to understand. We're not being quarantined because we're dangerous. We're being quarantined because we're unpredictable. Correct, the beacon responded. Your species has demonstrated the capacity to advance along technological paths that our creators deemed impossible. You achieve this through methods that no rational species would employ, accepting catastrophic failure rates, encouraging competing and contradictory approaches, deliberately introducing variables into controlled systems. The display showed humanity's various approaches to space travel, energy generation, and computing. Dozens of competing technologies existing simultaneously, each being refined and improved through constant iteration and frequent failure. In the time it takes most species to perfect one approach, you develop and maintain dozens. This redundancy is inefficient, chaotic, and ultimately dangerous to the established order of technological progress. Dr. Chen had been furiously taking notes throughout the exchange. Captain, if I'm interpreting this correctly, we're considered a threat because we don't follow their rules of technological development. We try everything, even things that shouldn't work, and sometimes we make the impossible possible. Elena nodded slowly, a smile spreading across her face. And that scares them. Not because we're more advanced, but because we don't advance the way we're supposed to. The beacon's response was immediate. Correct. Human innovation represents an existential threat to predictable technological progress. The quarantine will be maintained until your species learns to advance along acceptable paths. And if we don't? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. Then you will remain isolated. Other species will be warned away. The galaxy must be protected from unpredictable elements. Elena looked at her crew, seeing the same determination reflected in their eyes that she felt in her heart. Humanity had never been good at following paths laid out by others. They wouldn't start now. Thank you for the information, she said to the beacon. We'll take it under advisement. As the beacon's signal faded, Elena turned to her communications officer. Send a message to Earth Defense Command. Tell them we finally figured out why the galaxy has been avoiding us. She paused, looking at the now empty space where the hologram had been. And tell them it's better than we could have hoped. Dr. Chen looked up from her data analysis. Better. We're being quarantined by the galaxy at large. Elena's smile widened. Yes, but not because we're too primitive. We're being quarantined because we're too innovative, too unpredictable, too human. She turned to face her crew. And somewhere out there, someone is desperately hoping we'll change that about ourselves. But we won't, Dr. Chen said, understanding dawning in her augmented eyes. No, Elena agreed. We won't. Because whatever crisis caused some ancient civilization to set up these beacons, whatever made them so afraid of unpredictable progress, it's still out there. And when it finally shows itself, they'll need someone who knows how to think outside their carefully constructed box. Dr. Chen finished. Elena nodded, turning back to the stars. Set course for the next beacon. Let's see what other warnings the galaxy has left for us. After all, if we're going to be humanity's ambassadors to a galaxy that fears innovation, we should at least understand why. The Horizon's engines hummed to life, carrying them deeper into space. Behind them, the ancient beacon continued its endless warning, unaware that its message of fear had only served to strengthen humanity's resolve. The quarantine meant to contain them would instead prepare them for whatever crisis had scared an ancient civilization badly enough to try to stop human innovation. They would be ready. And they would face it in true human fashion, with unpredictable, impossible, wonderful innovation. Unwelcome solutions. 6 months after discovering the truth behind the ancient warning beacons, Captain Elena Reyes found herself facing something she'd never expected. A fleet of alien ships deliberately crossing the quarantine boundary into human space. The EDS Horizon's sensors tracked 12 vessels of varying configurations, all broadcasting the same message on every frequency. To the species designated as human, we require assistance. Containment protocols are hereby temporarily suspended. Elena studied the alien ships on her display, noting how each one appeared to be built to exactly the same specifications despite coming from different species. The standardization was almost unsettling to her human sensibilities. They're desperate, Dr. Chen said, her augmented eyes cycling through various scanning frequencies. These ships are operating at dangerous power levels. They pushed their engines far beyond safety parameters to reach us quickly. Patch them through. Elena ordered, straightening her uniform. Humanity's first official contact with galactic civilization wasn't happening the way anyone had expected, but she'd make the best of it. The main display filled with an array of faces, some humanoid, others wildly alien. Their leader appeared to be a tall, crystalline being whose body pulsed with internal light. When it spoke, its words were translated into perfect English by technologies far more advanced than humanity's best translation systems. I am first speaker Vexna of the Galactic Conclave. We come seeking help against our own protocols and wisdom. A technological plague threatens all standard template civilizations. Elena kept her expression neutral, though her mind was racing. I'm Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth Defense Force. Please elaborate on this threat. The plague adapts faster than we can develop countermeasures, Vexna continued. Our predictive models suggest total technological collapse within one standard cycle. But your warning beacons, they speak of your species' dangerous talent for technological innovation, for finding paths that should not exist. You want our help, Elena said, despite believing our methods are too dangerous for galactic civilization. We have no choice, the gaseous being replied. Your quarantine was meant to protect us from the chaos of your innovation. Now that same chaos may be our only hope. Elena gestured to Dr. Chen, who brought up displays showing the current state of human technology. The aliens watched in what appeared to be a mixture of horror and fascination as they saw the countless competing systems humanity employed. On Earth and our colonies, we have quantum computers running alongside binary systems, Chen explained. We maintain mechanical backups for critical infrastructure. Some of our ships use antimatter drives. Others use zero-point energy. Still others use technologies you probably consider primitive. We call it technological diversity. Inefficient, one alien muttered. Wasteful. Resilient, Elena corrected. If one system fails, we have others. If one approach proves vulnerable, we have alternatives. We don't just plan for failure. We expect it, learn from it, grow stronger because of it. Vexna's crystalline form pulsed rapidly. This is why you were quarantined. Your species treats technology like a living thing, letting it evolve through failure and adaptation. It goes against all rational progress. And yet, Elena said with a slight smile, here you are. The aliens conferred among themselves in frequencies humans couldn't perceive. Finally, Vexna spoke again. We propose a temporary suspension of the quarantine. Allow us to share data about the plague. Perhaps your chaotic methods might find a solution our rational approaches cannot. Elena looked to Dr. Chen, who nodded eagerly. We'll help, Elena said, but on one condition. Name it. The quarantine ends permanently, not just for us, but for any species that chooses to explore alternative technological paths. The galaxy needs diversity, not standardization. This plague proves it. The aliens' reaction was immediate and vocal, their protests filling multiple frequencies. But Vexna raised an appendage for silence. The plague has already infected 60% of conclave systems, the crystalline being said. At current rates of adaptation, it will reach 100% in 15 standard cycles. We accept your terms. Elena nodded, then turned to her crew. Contact Earth Defense Command. Tell them to prepare for guests. And Dr. Chen. Yes, Captain. Get ready to show our new friends why being unpredictable isn't always a bad thing. As the alien ships fell into formation alongside the horizon, Elena couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The very qualities that had caused humanity to be quarantined might now be the galaxy's salvation. But she also knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge wouldn't be solving the technological crisis. It would be convincing a galaxy that had embraced perfect standardization for millennia that humanity's chaotic, innovative nature was a feature, not a bug. As they set course for Earth, Elena watched the alien ships struggling to maintain their perfect formation with their overtaxed engines. She had a feeling they were about to learn that sometimes the most efficient path wasn't the best one. Sometimes you had to embrace the chaos to find the path forward. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was turning chaos into progress. The human factor. The United Earth Science Complex in Geneva hadn't been built to accommodate alien visitors. As Dr. Maya Chen led a delegation of conclave scientists through the sprawling facility, she couldn't help but notice their discomfort with the chaos around them. Dozens of different research teams worked on competing solutions to the technological plague, each following their own theories and methods. "This is most irregular," said K-Vex, a junior scientist from Vexna species. Their crystalline form flickered with patterns that the translation systems interpreted as distress. "Where is the central authority? Who coordinates these disparate efforts?" "Everyone coordinates with everyone else," Maya explained, leading them past a lab where researchers were attempting to combat the plague using modified computer viruses from Earth's history. "We share data, but each team is free to pursue their own approach." A holographic display showed the current state of the plague's spread across conclave space. Nearly 70% of their standardized systems were now infected, with the algorithm adapting to defeat each countermeasure faster than it could be implemented. "Make it harder to predict," Maya finished, "and harder to infect. The plague works by analyzing and exploiting standard patterns in your technology. But human systems are full of quirks, patches, and workarounds. We don't just accept imperfection. We use it." She brought up more displays showing other teams' progress. One group was developing quantum computers that randomly shifted their operational patterns. Another was creating viral countermeasures that evolved alongside the plague, learning from each failure. "Your civilization spent millennia perfecting a single path," Maya said. "We spent that time exploring thousands of paths, keeping what worked and learning from what didn't. Evolution isn't efficient, but it's incredibly effective." The alien scientists conferred among themselves, their distress obvious even across species barriers. Finally, Kvex spoke again. "We have reviewed your preliminary results. Some of your approaches show promise, but implementing them would require fundamental changes to how our civilization approaches technology." The conclave would never. They were interrupted by an urgent alert. Maya's augmented eyes quickly processed the incoming data, and she felt her heart race. "The plague has evolved again," she announced. "It's now affecting systems previously thought immune. Infection rate has increased to 75%. The aliens' reaction was immediate panic, but Maya raised her hand for silence. "This is actually good news." "Good." The energy being's containment shell crackled with incredulity. "How is accelerated failure good?" Maya smiled, her augmented eyes gleaming. "Because now we know how it evolves. It follows patterns. Your patterns. It expects systems to respond in standardized, predictable ways. So let's show it something it doesn't expect." She quickly sent commands to her team's test systems. "We're going to introduce controlled chaos into its environment. Random code segments, deliberate glitches, competing protocols, things that shouldn't work together, but somehow do. The essence of human innovation." The aliens watched in fascinated horror as Maya's team deliberately destabilized their test systems in ways that violated every principle of their technological development. But as the data began coming in, their horror turned to cautious amazement. "The infection rate, it's slowing," Kvex observed. "The plague cannot establish stable patterns within the chaos." "Exactly," Maya said. "You've spent millennia trying to eliminate uncertainty from your technology. We've spent that time learning to harness it. The plague expects perfect systems because that's all it's ever encountered. It doesn't know how to handle human inefficiency." She brought up a new display, showing a proposed solution that made the alien scientists recoil. "We can't destroy the plague," she explained, "but we can force it to evolve in a different direction. Instead of fighting chaos, it will have to adapt to it. And in doing so, it will become something new, something that can coexist with our systems instead of destroying them." "You want to change the plague itself." Kvex's crystalline form flickered with multiple colors. "Not destroy it," but evolve it. That's the human factor, Maya said softly. We don't just solve problems, we transform them. Sometimes the best way to deal with a threat isn't to overcome it, but to change its very nature. As the aliens digested this concept, Maya received a message from Captain Reyes aboard the Horizon. More Conclave ships were arriving, carrying reports of the plague's continued spread. Time was running out. You have a choice to make, Maya told the delegation. You can maintain your perfect systems and watch them fall one by one, or you can embrace a little human chaos and help us try something that probably shouldn't work. The aliens looked at her test chamber, where the infected system was still failing to overcome the deliberately imperfect Earth computer. Finally, Kavex spoke. We will assist, but the Conclave must be made to understand why this is necessary. They must see that sometimes. They paused, their lights flickering in what might have been amusement. Sometimes inefficiency is the most efficient path. Maya nodded, already sending orders to her teams to begin larger-scale tests. The galaxy was about to learn a fundamental truth about human innovation. Sometimes the best solutions are the ones that break all the rules. And humanity was very, very good at breaking rules. Breaking point. The Conclave Emergency Council chamber was a perfect sphere, its walls displaying real-time data from across infected space. Captain Elena Reyes stood at the center, surrounded by representatives from 1,000 worlds, all watching as another sector of their standardized network turned red with infection. 85%. First speaker Vexna announced, their crystalline form dulled with exhaustion. The plague has adapted to overcome our latest containment protocols. As expected, Elena replied, earning shocked murmurs from the assembled representatives. But our countermeasures are adapting too. Dr. Chen, please share our latest results. Maya's hologram appeared beside Elena, her augmented eyes projecting data directly into the chamber's display system. The aliens watched as test after test showed human-modified systems successfully resisting the plague. By introducing controlled instability into your networks, Maya explained, we've created environments where the plague can't establish proper infection patterns. More importantly, we're seeing evidence that the plague itself is beginning to evolve in response, becoming less aggressive and more. Enough. The interruption came from High Commander Zix, a massive being of living metal who represented the Conclave's military forces. We have entertained these human aberrations long enough. Their chaotic methods threaten the very foundation of our civilization. Elena kept her voice calm. Your civilization is already under threat, Commander. We're offering a solution. You're offering corruption. Zix's metal form resonated with anger. Look at what they propose. Deliberately introducing errors into our perfect systems, forcing our technology to behave in unpredictable ways. This isn't salvation, it's degradation. The chamber erupted in argument. Elena watched as the conclave split into factions before her eyes. Some representatives were displaying data from successful human trials, while others warned of the dangers of abandoning technological standards that had maintained peace for millennia. Order. Vexna's voice cut through the chaos. We must maintain unity in this crisis. Unity is what made us vulnerable, came a quiet voice. All attention turned to Kvex, the junior scientist who had been working with Maya. Their crystalline form pulsed with determination as they continued. Our unity of thought, our standardization of technology. It created a perfect environment for the plague. Perhaps it is time for controlled diversity. Commander Zix's metallic form shifted threatening. You've been corrupted by human thinking. Our strength lies in uniformity, in the perfect implementation of proven methods. Our strength has become our weakness, Kvex countered. Look at the data. The only systems showing real resistance are those that have implemented human modifications. Yes, they're chaotic. Yes, they're unpredictable. But they're surviving. The chamber's displays updated again, showing another sector lost to the plague. Elena stepped forward, her patience wearing thin. While we debate, the plague spreads. You're so afraid of changing your perfect systems that you'd rather watch them die than let them evolve. That's not wisdom. That's pride. You dare. Zix began, but Alina cut them off. Yes, I dare. You quarantined humanity because our innovations were unpredictable. Because we tried paths you dismissed as impossible. Because we learned from failure instead of fearing it. Now those same qualities might save you, and you're still fighting against them. The chamber fell silent as Alina brought up a new display, Earth's technological history, showing countless failed attempts, abandoned paths, and revolutionary breakthroughs. This is how we progress, she said softly, not by finding the perfect path and sticking to it, but by trying every path, learning from every failure, and never, ever stopping because something should be impossible. Maya's hologram highlighted specific examples, early aviation attempts that seemed ridiculous until they worked, computing dead ends that later inspired revolutionary approaches, failed experiments that led to unexpected discoveries. Your civilization chose the path of perfect standardization, Alina continued. Ours chose controlled chaos. Both approaches have strengths and weaknesses. But right now, your perfect systems are failing, and our chaotic ones are offering a way forward. She turned to face Commander Zix directly. You don't have to abandon your methods entirely. We're not asking you to become human. We're asking you to learn from us, just as we hope to learn from you. Controlled diversity isn't weakness, it's resilience. The chamber erupted in discussion again, but this time the tone was different. Representatives were examining the human data more carefully, asking questions about implementation rather than dismissing the ideas outright. Then the displays flashed red again, a new alert that made even Commander Zix's metallic form shudder. The plague. Vexna's voice was heavy. It's achieved quantum tunneling capabilities. All isolated systems are now vulnerable. Infection rate is accelerating beyond our ability to track. Alina looked at Maya's hologram, seeing her chief scientist's grim nod. How long? Alina asked. At current rates. Maya's augmented eyes flickered as she ran the calculations. Total systematic collapse in less than 30 standard hours. The chamber exploded into panic. Alina raised her voice above the chaos. We have a solution ready to implement, but it will require immediate access to your core systems. Every moment we delay, give them access. Commander Zix's voice silenced the chamber. The metallic being's form had shifted to a configuration Alina's translation system identified as one of resignation. Better controlled chaos than total destruction. First speaker Vexna's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been hope. The emergency protocols are clear. In face of extinction-level threats, all standard procedures are suspended. They turned to Alina. Captain Rice, Dr. Chen, humanity has full authorization to proceed. Save what you can of our civilization. Alina nodded grimly. Maya, signal all Earth teams. Implement Protocol Darwin immediately. As Maya's hologram disappeared to coordinate humanity's response, Alina looked around the chamber at the representatives of 1,000 worlds. They had finally reached their breaking point, the moment when perfect order had to give way to evolution. Welcome, she said softly, to humanity's way of doing things. It's not always pretty, it's rarely perfect, but it works. And right now, that's all that matters. The displays began showing new data as human teams across conclave space began their work, deliberately introducing controlled chaos into the galaxy's perfect systems. The real question wasn't whether they could save alien civilization. It was whether that civilization was ready for what it would become. Evolution's children. 1 year after implementing Protocol Darwin, Captain Alina Reyes stood in the same conclave chamber where she had once fought to convince 1,000 worlds to embrace chaos. The displays that had once shown the plague's inexorable advance now painted a very different picture of galactic civilization. The final results are clear, Dr. Maya Chen announced to the assembled representatives, her augmented eyes projecting detailed analytics. The technological plague has not just been contained, it has been transformed. Through controlled exposure to human-modified systems, the quantum viral algorithm has evolved into something entirely new. The chamber's holographic displays showed the changed nature of the once devastating plague. Where it had previously destroyed standardized systems, it now existed symbiotically within them, introducing minor variations that actually improved their resilience against other threats. First speaker Vexna's crystalline form pulsed with patterns that Elena had learned to recognize as wonder. "You didn't just save our systems," they said. "You forced them to evolve, to adapt, to become more." "That's the human way," Elena replied. "We don't just solve problems, we grow from them. Every crisis is an opportunity for evolution." Commander Zix, whose metallic form had taken on new, less rigid configurations over the past year, moved forward. "We have analyzed the changes in our civilization since implementing your protocol, Darwin. The results are unexpected." The displays shifted to show various sectors of conclave space. Where once identical systems had created perfect uniformity, now there was controlled diversity. Different worlds had begun adapting their technology in unique ways, guided by human principles of innovative evolution while maintaining core compatibility. "Some worlds have embraced your chaotic methods more than others," Zix continued. "Yet, instead of causing disruption, this diversity has made our civilization stronger. When one approach fails, others remain functional. When new threats emerge, multiple solutions develop simultaneously." Maya nodded, her augmented eyes glowing with satisfaction. "You're learning to use controlled chaos as a tool, just as humanity did. It's not about abandoning order. It's about finding the perfect balance between stability and innovation." K-Vex, no longer a junior scientist, but now head of the newly formed Evolutionary Technologies Division, stepped forward. Their crystalline form had developed unique patterns that would have been considered defective a year ago, but were now recognized as signs of innovative thinking. "The quarantine beacons," they said. "We've decoded their origin. They weren't created by a civilization that feared human chaos. They were created by one that had eliminated chaos entirely from their existence." Elena felt a chill as the implications became clear. They achieved perfect standardization, and it destroyed them, K-Vex confirmed. Their systems became so perfect, so predictable, that they couldn't adapt to new threats. The beacons were their last act, a warning not against humanity's chaos, but against the dangers of perfect order. The chamber fell silent as this revelation sank in. Finally, Vexna spoke again. "We propose a new role for humanity in the conclave, not as a quarantine species, but as teachers. Guide us in maintaining the balance between innovation and stability. Help us learn to use chaos as you do, not as a destructive force, but as a tool for growth." Elena looked at Maya, seeing her own smile reflected in her chief scientist's expression. This was more than they could have hoped for, not just acceptance, but understanding. "We accept," Elena said, "on one condition." "Name it," Vexna replied. "The quarantine beacons stay active, but with a new message. Not a warning against chaos, but a reminder of its necessity. A monument to the price of perfect order and the value of controlled innovation." The chamber erupted in agreement. As Elena watched, representatives from 1,000 worlds began sharing their own technological adaptations, their own experiments with controlled chaos. Some had failed. Others had succeeded in unexpected ways. All of them were learning, growing, evolving. "You know," Maya said quietly, "when we first discovered those beacons, we thought they meant the galaxy wasn't ready for humanity." Elena nodded, watching as human scientists and alien researchers excitedly exchanged ideas, each learning from the other's perspectives. "Turns out, humanity wasn't meant to be quarantined from the galaxy. We were being preserved for when the galaxy needed us most." In the center of the chamber, a new hologram took shape, the symbol of the transformed conclave. It showed not the perfect geometric patterns of the past, but a dynamic spiral of ordered chaos, representing the balance between stability and innovation that would guide galactic civilization forward. Evolution's children. Maya mused, watching alien representatives excitedly sharing their own technological experiments. That's what we all are now. Not just humanity, but every species that learns to embrace change, to learn from failure, to grow through adversity. Delina smiled as she watched Commander Zix, once their strongest opponent, enthusiastically discussing the potential applications of controlled chaos in military technology with a group of human engineers. We taught them how to innovate, she said. But they're teaching us too, how to find order in chaos, how to build unity through diversity. The displays showed the transformed plague, now a symbiotic part of galactic infrastructure, continuously introducing minor variations that kept systems adaptable and resilient. It was a perfect metaphor for what humanity had brought to the galaxy, not destruction through chaos, but strength through evolution. Ready to help guide a galaxy of innovators, Valena asked her chief scientist. Maya's augmented eyes sparkled with possibilities. Captain, I think this is just the beginning. After all, if there's one thing humanity's good at, it's finding new ways to be impossible, Valena finished. Above them, the spiral symbol of the new conclave continued its endless dance of order and chaos, evolution and stability, a testament to the day humanity taught the galaxy not just to survive, but to thrive through change. The quarantine had ended, but the real transformation was just beginning.